Okay, here we are, everybody. Returning to BTS, and I've had some time to think about things, and I've had a lot of really good suggestions, and so the idea that I had is a little bit of everything. Sometimes we're going to take on a theme. Maybe the theme is an emotion or a period of time. Sometimes maybe we do deep breakdowns. And again, I think the idea is taking our time, slowing things down, not worrying about, a time limit and having to hit this amount of time and this many minutes and seconds. And, one thing I love about doing this on Saturday is because I'm free, I can kind of just take this at a leisurely pace. So the idea, if I'm being honest, is to just enjoy it in the moment and looking at this not as necessarily a music critic stance or, a review stance, but rather an army stance. And also, I would say from a leisurely stance, let's enjoy our time. It's BTS. I think we can enjoy some time and have some fun and have some good, open, honest talk. So, I decided that the best way to do that is a full breakdown of fake love. And so we're going to be doing a whole spiel about it. And let's just relax and hang out and talk about fake love. And honestly, the reason why I chose this, because this is my favorite era of BTS. So what do you say? Let's do it, shall we?
저희 Fake Love 뮤직비디오 촬영 현장에 도착을 했습니다.
두 뮤직비디오는 개인마다의 싱글이
Whoa, that was an actual guitar. I wish this had English subtitles. I miss you, BTS. Enjoy BTS more. I miss that channel.
대화하기도 하고 제가 얘기도 하고 가장 혼란을 주체화된 인물인 것 같아요.
단거 땡기세요? 제가 또 단거를 좋아하니까 많은 초코마를 깔아주세요. 오, 나의 세상에. 저만의 공간이었습니다, 여러분.
전화를 이렇게 푸는데 갑자기 노래로 바뀌어서 당황하는 뒤의 모습을 볼 수
있습니다. 좋은 날씨입니다.
I always thought that this music video was really interesting for the fact that when we were doing the BU on the channel, that each person kind of covered a topic that was more or less like a struggle of them or like a fear. And I thought that was actually really interesting when I noticed that Tae picked like in the music videos like phones and like that kind of thing, because I think there's a lot of members of BTS that obviously have had their fair share of hate online and stuff like that, but Tae definitely had a kind of a bit of a different go around about it. Not to mention too, I think that I feel like obviously BTS is just always going to have haters, and I feel like that they can't really control themselves a lot of times. But it's interesting, like, what each member had to deal with. And to me, I feel like that a lot of times that I keep going back to this video, this song, to kind of really see more or less what was affecting them most, I guess, in a lot of ways. I just feel like that seeing how they handled it as well, it was also a very interesting thing as well.
잘해봐야죠.
I think that's another thing that's really interesting too, is because, like, to me, there is this duality when it comes to BTS in general, where, like, there's the BTS that, like, the normal outside of Army see, and then there's the version of BTS that Army sees. And I feel like that's one thing that's really interesting about being in my position, because obviously I feel like I do generally, like 100% of the time, lean more towards, like, the Army stuff, but there's still times where I just feel like I'm not fully, like, meted into the to the to the fandom. And I think it kind of gives me a little bit of an interesting view, because when you see them, like, going through, like, all the hate and all the problems and stuff like that, and you see them in situations like this, and it kind of seems like one of the most important things about it all, in a lot of sense, is that it's just a really good distraction, and obviously a very good avenue to, like, really let those emotions and feelings be processed in a very artistic and musical sense, in which they are allowed to kind of safely express how they feel. But I think the interesting thing is too, is, like, obviously we've seen clips of them where they see things that are, directed at them. Obviously there's the really famous clip of Jimin seeing some hate, and you can see that quite a few people in the group were very upset of what they saw and read, and so he, like, puts down the phone and whatnot. And you see clips like this, and they're having fun, and they're talking, and they're laughing. And sometimes I think the best way to handle what they went through and having that catharsis is through this process, if that makes sense. At least to me personally. And coming from an outside perspective, I wonder how much, especially now, like, there's a new rise in annoyance of BTS, whether it's for, like, the World Cup or, choosing to do ads with Coca-Cola or whatever. And I think to myself, they're probably at a point now where, even though that stuff happens, the worst of it is probably behind them. I mean, I feel like that, especially where they are so successful and so a part of how this has all happened, that, they have a good level of security, both emotionally, physically, and mentally, and emotionally, able to separate that themselves from that. And to me, that's actually one of the reasons why, if you want to ever be mad at anybody for being a success or having, like, whatever in their life, the person in the group that deserves it the most, to me, generally is BTS. For this reason, is, like, they deserve to have that shield away from all the stuff that people try to do. And yeah, it's really cool.
저거 달려갈 때 네, 근데 이 현실적인 거 무서워. 전자레인
Of course it's JK doing this too, because of course that's his physical and stuff.
네, 여기는 아이니스 때부터 시작해서 중간인데 저희 트라우마
The leopard print.
갑시다. 트라우마를 마주하러.
이거 재밌다. 안 젖어요. 나 하나도 안 젖었거든요.
I think also another thing that I found really interesting about this music video is the interesting opposite angles that members would take. Like BTS or Jimin, for example, like he's the one who's surrounded by like the water, whereas Yoongi is like all surrounded by the fire, and it's an interesting like visual diversion, I guess, because like water is like a struggle. Like if you start to get tired, you start to wear out, you'll start to sink and you'll start getting into that side of it, whereas like fire is more that just instant and immediate problem. And I think also too the way that they have each other portray their reaction to that exact like problem really says a lot about the mentality of the time too. It's interesting going back and seeing like all this. Oh look, it's the alternate BTS. I still maintain that position, by the way. I at first was not really grasping the BU at all, but after getting a couple of hints and kind of like going off screen and letting things kind of like sit and cook and, you know, marinate, things started to really pick up towards the end. But I still maintain that this is a alternate reality version of BTS, where this is still BTS, but it's like a dark version of BTS. These are all straight up like the same mask that they used from that one show, Eyes Wide Shut, right? Looks very similar.
미국에서 보고 왔는데 진짜 잘 나왔어요. 저희가 또 열심히 준비한 만큼 여러분들 기대 많이 해주셨으면 좋겠습니다. Fake love.
Next, we have the dance practice. I kind of wish that it was more like the modern ones, but I mean, I'll take what I can get. This is so when they were like part of doing like all the set pieces inside of their dance. It's always like one shape to the next and like having all these really intricate choreographies that move between shapes and, you know, things like that. I don't know. There's something that's kind of beautiful about this era. They can really pop and lock really good. That's what's kind of crazy. Just like, just like. I also think that that's like such an interesting movement right there, because the whole idea behind fake love, obviously we understand, but like there's this idea of this particular movement here that almost gives me like marionette kind of vibes, you know? It's like they're being hung by the wires. The amount of physicality that they have in these older choreographies like this too is so crazy. And I actually had to say, like, that's one of the things that I thought about when we were getting an Aridan, which to me I think is so crazy that you know I have seen videos. That's the crazy part of them still doing like all the old stuff. And in fact, the bulletproof flip was even done recently. But I remember, and this will make sense here in a second. I remember when there was an interview with the group Metallica, and they asked him, like, oh, how long do you think that you can do this for? And I remember specifically, I think it was Lars who was talking, which he does a lot. And he said, well, probably not, because they compared it like, oh, do you think that you're going to be able to do it for like as long as like the Rolling Stones? And they're like, well, to be fair, the music that we play is a little bit more physical than the Rolling Stones. And I think that that's actually something that, we have to kind of start thinking about when it comes to groups like BTS. Now, I'm not saying they're getting too old to do this stuff, but, I think at some point, the truth is that Father Time is undefeated, and, there will probably come a point where they will probably start to downsize that type of physicality that we see in these kinds of, choreographies. And to be truthful, a lot of the choreography that was shown inside of Arirang probably isn't quite this physical, am I right? So, I don't know. I find it interesting. And to me personally, I feel like that this era here, they were just so 100% balls to the wall with the choreography. Like between this and Blood, Sweat, and Tears and like Black Swan, this was a moment in time, and I think that's something that I'm trying to really get to, is like, this that was a time period, and we might not ever have that kind of time period again, and if we do, it will probably still be very different. Anyway, that's the kind of things that goes on in my brain. Oh, that transition right there is so smooth. So cool. The transitions in this choreography is ridiculously so smooth. This is, to me, like, I feel like every popular group. Okay, let's be real here. We know there's a lot of popular groups, and so I'll bring those up from time to time. But like, I feel like every popular group, when they get to their like the height of their popularity, enters what I think is like, this is obvious, but like their peak. And for me personally, like, this is peak BTS in so many ways, because it's just the vocals, the rap, the presentation, the visuals, the vibe, everything about this is god tier. Like, so absolute god tier that to me, I'm just like, how can this ever be topped? And I'm being honest, like, it is such a height at where they're at that I'm just like, goodness, everything here, they were running on such, not even all cylinders. I think they invented 2 extra cylinders to keep going. It is crazy how good this era was. I don't think there's a choreography that actually even explains the level of despair that this one does. It's crazy. I think the craziest thing, when we're sitting here talking about this era, especially like with Fake Love, because that's obviously the topic, is it's not just them dancing. Right? It's the story that they're able to tell. There's so much that I just feel is so embedded. And like, that's why to me, like, this is why I think that it's so god tier, because it's not just, oh, this is a cool dance, this is a cool song, their vocals sound good. It's just a combination of just like the storytelling, the quality of song, the quality of the choreography. It just tells such a vibrant story to the point where it's just like, what more? There's no improvement that can be done. Remember when when they'd get done with their dance practices, they'd always have a funny clip at the end? Yeah, I remember those days too. And part 1 of them performing the song. I chose this one because I feel like that, obviously, when we do like the MMAs or the mamas, it is so above and beyond that it's probably not the typical performance that they would give if they are performing it. So that's why I chose the Mnet version. Let's also just talk about, because this is one thing about BTS, and one thing I'm actually very happy with new groups. I know that not everybody who watches BTS will go and, or care too much about finding the newer groups or anything like that. But I think that this is one of those effects of, the inspiration behind these older groups and like BTS, like some of the inspirations that they cause. You're starting to see a lot of groups actually perform live again in this new current generation. And when it comes to performing live, there's almost nobody that sounds as good, like as close to recording as BTS. That is such a huge thing. Like, this is a 1 for 1. There's a video that I want to do about Jin. Tell me if you think that this actually sounds like a good idea. I want to talk about the fact that I feel like that Jin might be, even though he is part of BTS, one of the most underrated vocalists in the entire genre. Like, for real. Like, obviously we know how good Jungkook is, and how good Jimin is, and like how good so many of these other singers can be and are, whether it's in BTS or outside of BTS, but like, I still always feel like that when it comes to vocals, that nobody gives Jin his due. Let me know.
Just for you. Just for you. Just for you. For you. Hey, 우리 안에 roots. 너는 없었어. 내가 왔던 roots 잊어버렸어. 나도 내가 누구였는지도 잘 모르게 됐어 거울에다 찍어내봐 너는 대체 누구니 피울 수 없는 꽃을 키웠어 나의 소배 나의 소배 널 위해 바꿔줄 selvi잖아
I think another thing that is really interesting about this choreography, now that I'm looking at it, is that I think most people would have gone, love you so bad, but they don't do it on that exact moment.
피울 수 없는 꽃을 키웠어 나의 소배 나의 소배 널 위해 바꿔줄
And the reason probably is for that is because whipping around like that would probably cause it to sound bad, but also too, like, it's just a really interesting stylistic choice that probably most people wouldn't have made, honestly.
selvi잖아 너의 소매 너의 소매 널 채워놓은 여기대로 해 나의 소배 나의 소배 널 위해 바꿔줄 selvi잖아 너의 소매 너의 소매 널 채워놓은 여기대로 해 I'm so sick of this fake life fake life fake life I'm so sorry but it's fake life fake life fake life Why you shy? I don't know 나 몰라 웃어봐 사랑해 말해봐 나를 봐 나조차도 버린 나 너조차 이해할 수 없는 나내 손에 하네 네가 좋아하는 나로 변한 내가 아니래 하네 예전에 네가 잘 알고 있던 내가 하는 게 뭐가 있어 나는 뭐라서 사랑은 뭐가 사 It's all fake love
I always like the added in addition of the synthesizer right there. Really cool to hear that bring in a little bit of an 80s vibe.
Cause it's a fake love fake love fake love 나의 소배 나의 소배 널 위해 바꿔줄 selvi잖아 나의 소매 나의 소매 나의 지원을
See, this is another thing. It's a small little, just a small little section that shows you how good they are. When he whips around, he almost loses his headset. Right there. Great save. Woo! I have to say, as much as I have been enjoying the Ariran comeback, I really do kind of miss them going on like Mnet and KBS and, you know, Inkigayo and stuff like that. I understand why they didn't and, you know, all the problems that they've been having with K-Media, but I miss these kind of comeback videos that we get, though. I think it's just so special to be able to see them and the crowd.
사랑이 사랑하는 걸 완벽하게 해보던 이쪽들은 다 숨겨지기 이루어지지 않는 꿈속에서 피울 수 없는 꽃을 키웠어
Such a cool fairy ending, too. It makes me so sad. It really does. It really does. But again, I like to see this because, like, this is part of the building blocks. This is the part of the, you know, the process. This is why we're doing this. We start from the music video to the dance to the dance practice to this to the actual music video. You know, I really like to have those the pieces, you know, we're seeing the building blocks. It's so cool. So, yeah. Let's see the final piece, shall we? All right, let's see the artistic side of the performance, shall we? The visuals in this music video is just always so crazy. And you know, the interesting thing is, right off the bat, like, I find it interesting, when we were watching the behind the scenes, the back wall almost looked pink, and here it looks white. It's interesting what lighting can really do. And the fact that all of this is practical too, it just kind of just again goes to show you at the level and like demanding of the perfection that they were at. Well, still are. Like standing with the fire, standing with the water, room is blowing up. Just for you. Just for you. Just for you. I think one thing that I find to be so real now, because when it comes to other K-pop groups, most of the time I like every single member, you know, like that's not the thing. Just like I like every single member. Everyone has their place, but like the interesting thing is I feel like BTS is the one group where like I will go through cycles of like, okay, I'm really digging this member right now. Like it's weird because, you know, at this point in time, if you kind of look at the journey anyway, I started off as Namjoon as being my bias, just because I remember specifically we were listening to Dope. And I was like, oh my goodness, he sounds so good here and he looks so awesome. Then we started getting onto, you know, into more of the clips and stuff like that and, you know, watching more music. And I was like, oh, maybe I kind of lean more towards Yoongi because we're kind of both a little more serious, kind of dig that more darker aesthetic and kind of all this other stuff. And I know, I'm kind of a bit of a loner myself, blah, 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 blah. But then it's like, I finally rested on Jimin, mainly because just I really like the empathy aspect that he has and all this other stuff. But now I just like sit there and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, Tae. Oh my goodness, I love Tae. And like, oh my goodness. Like recently, I'm not gonna lie, Hobie has been kind of like my big wrecker. Mainly just because I feel like there's a lot that I feel like that is so raw about Hobie. You know what I'm saying? But like he's so happy, but he's like so raw. It's interesting going back to this because everything looks so young too. Everybody looks so young. That was a solid piano and guitar. I think the other thing that I find really interesting about this video, maybe I'm just noticing this for the first time, aside from like the house itself, because like obviously the house with all the hallways that they're running down were a little bit more on like the beaten down, decrepit style. But like this particular set to me has always drawn my eye. But one thing that I feel like I noticed this time is like if this set was put to polish and really tidied up to look at the peak of its possibility, this would be an incredibly beautiful room. But like seeing like everything like all rusted out and decayed and like there's still something still here that kind of makes you think to yourself, this just needs a little bit of elbow grease. But like look at how beautiful this room is, and like imagine how it would look if you like put it to the nines. I don't know. I really find this to be an interesting and striking visual in the background, because the fact is like what had happened here to make it look like that. And now I understand that this is a set. I'm just talking about this from like a story perspective, you know? What is it that caused this room to be like this? Like the rusted gate, but yet it's got all this ornate stuff all over it. What an interesting storytelling device, because like you'll see there's still some varnish right here on the wood, but then like the top is all rusted out. Very interesting. The sands of time are closing, my friend. Little hearts. The fact that they did this for real is actually so insane. I think one thing that I think you just have to also, when we're talking about all this like masterpiece and top quality and blah 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 blah, the one thing that has to be stated is the fact that, you know, when it comes to the ability to do this, Hybe had to basically give him a carte blanche. Like, there is no way that, like, you could skimp on any of this. You know, they probably like, hey, look, we have this idea for a music video. And they literally just handed him a blank check. And, like, do what you gotta do to get this done. And the result is like insane, because this takes, I think you can say whatever you want about Hybe, obviously, or I mean even like Big Hit, I guess, whoever you want to talk about, the trust and like I would say, yeah, trust that they had, that they just knew that BTS was just going to do what they needed and was going to exceed any expectation, is commendable. Like, I mean, they were doing that from the very beginning. Just any single time they would just give them what money they could and needed and just like, do what you got to do, you know, because they raised the bar for music videos, for storytelling, for, you know, all this stuff. I think that's something, yes, BTS paved the way, but like this is probably, to me, it's not even like the tours that they go on or the popularity achieved. It's raising the bar on music and music videos, choreography, styling. Like, I think that that's something that needs to be discussed in a way that BTS paved the way, you know? I love the fact that it looks like a robot malfunctioning almost. It gives it this like almost eerie feeling behind it. It's just like, oh no, you know? It's really an interesting detail.
널 위해서라면 난 아파도 강한 척할 수가 있었어. 사랑이 사랑만으로 완벽하게 내 모든 약점들은 다 숨겨지기에 이루어지지 않는 꿈속에서 피울 수 없는 꽃을 키웠어.
I don't know. To me, I hope that you've liked this a little bit more like different. And like I said, this isn't going to be the only thing that I do. I might do like a breakdown of like what I think are the best like choreographies. I might talk about like my favorite vocals, my favorite raps, you know, all that stuff. This is a new work in progress, and I just feel like that what I want to do is make BTS content that is really driving to me. And I have to admit, I've been really dwelling on Fake Love, and I've been dwelling specifically on this album. And you know, I do also need to talk about Arirang and as a whole. I need to get back to re-listening to it. There's been some stuff that's been going on, if I'm being honest, and that's why I kind of went back to Fake Love in this particular album and era, because to me there's so much that was happening that I needed something to kind of go to, and this was one of those reasons. And I thought to myself, we're talking about all the artistic, you know, and creative bits about this, but like to me, the most important, impressive thing is the emotional aspect behind it all. I feel like that to me personally, I love how this album has made me feel, the atmosphere that it creates, this expectation of like almost what to accept. And I feel like that this particular era of BTS in a lot of senses also is the one that resonates most with me. There's a lot that I feel like that has happened recently in my life that has made me kind of go back and realize that this song is extremely relatable. Yeah, so this was just a really big coming to, and it was really helpful and helping what I was going through. So that's why I wanted to talk about Fake Love and this era in particular. Let me know what y'all think about this, and we'll discuss this down in the comments below. Thank you, and goodbye.